The Iran war is not stopping. There is no peace. And I told you guys I was going to keep you updated on the latest. Here's what we got. Let's dive right into it.
And U.S. forces launching self-defense strikes, hitting boats and missile sites in southern Iran as President Trump presses forward with diplomatic efforts for lasting peace in the region. Welcome to a brand new hour of America's Newsroom. I'm Dana Perino.
Good weekend?
Oh, good. How about those Knicks?
Are you dry yet? Because
yes.
That was
a soaker,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm guessing they lost. I didn't follow the Knicks game, but I'm guessing they lost.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm Bill Hemmer. Good morning. Hope you all had a wonderful Memorial weekend. Let's get back to it now. CENTCOM taking defensive action to protect American troops amid a fragile ceasefire, while negotiators appear to be moving closer to finalizing some sort of peace agreement.
Are they really, though? Are they really?
Maybe. And Republican Senator Dave McCormick telling us last hour that Iran can never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon.
Absolutely
I
not.
think the president's been very clear on this.
Look, I don't understand how Iran can be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. It is apparent, especially after the reports that they just targeted Ivanka Trump, that they cannot have a nuclear weapon. Look, it's like one of those bad relationships that's just completely gone awry, and now this one person wants to destroy you. That's exactly what Iran is to the United States. So I don't know. Let me know what you think inside the comments. Can we let Iran have a nuclear weapon? I don't think so. There's no way, right?
Dr. Rubio is very clear on this. And the Iranians have a choice. They can choose a path to prosperity for the Persian people, one of the great civilizations that's been run by radicals for 50 years, or we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and put additional pressure with military force, but they can't have a path to a nuclear weapon, period.
Foreign correspondent Jeff Paul is live in Dubai with more. Hi, Jeff.
Right, and they absolutely cannot have a nuclear weapon, and at this point, no one's going to be safe. So, I mean, that means that we have to intervene, right? Because if you don't want war, but you don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon, then we've got to step in, right? I mean, that's just 1 + 1 = 2. Doesn't work any other way, right?
Hey, Dana, well, yeah, leaders here in the Gulf are still hopeful and trying to actively work to get that U.S.-Iran peace deal across the line. We know a delegation from Tehran recently traveled to Qatar to continue diplomatic efforts there, but complicating this entire picture, those recent strikes carried out overnight by the U.S. military in southern Iran. U.S. military officials saying the strikes were carried out in self-defense, targeting missile launch sites and boats they say were laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz.
Wow.
CENTCOM says the strikes were aimed to protect troops from threats posed by Iranian forces. While traveling back from India today, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said talks were still ongoing and that there's been a lot of back and forth regarding specific language.
So let me get this straight. If there are mines actively being placed in the Strait of Hormuz, then there's a potential for an escalation in everything that's going on at any point, right? Because a ship could be going along and then all of a sudden hit a mine after everything is seemingly peaceful, and it blow up and kill a lot of Americans or anyone other than Iranians, and that's going to escalate things right back up. I mean, I would think so. So this is just a nasty situation, and I don't know how it's gonna get fixed anytime soon. Let's keep watching, guys.
I think there's strong alignment and agreement on what a preliminary draft should look like. I think that, like anything with something like this, it's going to take a couple days to settle on, even down to the disagreements over a word.
And look, Marco Rubio ran for president. He's getting exactly what he wanted. Look, there he is on the plane. This guy is busy as fuck. He is got to be going places all the time. So, Marco Rubio, thank you for your service. That is a busy man right there.
Sentence. So we'll have to work through that. If there's going to be a deal, we're going to have to work through that. But this is, it's either going to be a good deal or there isn't going to be one.
Now, in Iran, government officials there say negotiations are still continuing, but are proving a little difficult. They accuse the U.S. of being...
Well, that's good that Iran is actually saying that the negotiations are continuing, because otherwise they're saying, look, death to America, and that is no good. So I hope we can reach some kind of agreement. You know, I know when Obama was president and Donald Trump was very critical about this, didn't we give a lot of money to Iran? No, now I understand why, because most of the world's oil comes out of that Gulf region. And they say, well, if you watched my video the other day, they say that if we don't get our oil from the Gulf, if all the different countries around the world don't get their oil from the Gulf, then the second largest holder of oil would be the United States, especially now that we have Venezuela under our control. So it's just a big game of chess, right? Because if the Strait of Hormuz stays closed, then the United States stands to gain a lot of money by selling our oil.
Inconsistent and full of contradictions in negotiations. Even among those who call Tehran home, residents there are growing a little frustrated by the process. Some fear the U.S. will go back on its commitments if a deal is signed. Others aren't sure if a long-term peace deal is even possible.
In my opinion, a temporary agreement is possible, but whether this temporary agreement will lead to a final agreement and result in peace is questionable. The officials must absolutely maintain the necessary vigilance and care.
Now, Marco Rubio acknowledged those talks that are going on in Qatar with Qatari officials.
It's really got to happen at the highest level, right? And be of substance, meaning I think the United States is going to have to pay money or show the Iranian government, which does not really represent the Iranian people, let's be honest, kind of like the Venezuelan government with Maduro. The Venezuelan people celebrated when Maduro was captured because he didn't extend that wealth to the Venezuelan people. And it's very similar in Cuba right now. It's very similar in Iran right now. So we've got to do something that is good for the Iranian government, for them to keep their word. This isn't going to be just, oh, you like me, I like you, let's keep our word. No, we're way past that.
And Iranian officials, but at the moment, no major breakthroughs in this peace deal to report just yet. Dana?
All right, Jeff Paul, thank you for setting us up for this board hit by Bill.
The straits have to be open. They're going to be open one way or the other. So they need to be open. What's happening there is unlawful, it's illegal, it's unsustainable for the world, it's unacceptable.
I mean, the United States is pushing its weight around. There's no, and they're saying there's no other choice but to have the strait open. And I get that, right? Because the world runs on oil. We've got to have the oil for the world to run. Yet at the same time, you've got ships out there from Iran actively putting mines in the Strait of Hormuz, right? This is their land. This is their area. They know this area like the back of their hand better than anyone else. So I don't know. I think a lot of this is just political speak, you know, just trying to keep the American people satiated and act like you know what you're doing. But I'm sure if Iran wanted to make it hard for us, they could. And the next phase of what this could unfold to, I don't know what that looks like, because if Iran did decide to make it hard, that's where the bloodshed would start happening, and the blood would be on the United States' hands, kind of like Putin with Ukraine. We would just have to go there and out-muscle them. And if Iran does things like they did before, where they have children encircling bridges and different areas where they're bomb sites, this could get real ugly real fast, right? Because if Trump says, hey, we're going to take out the power plants and the bridges so that Iran goes back into the Stone Age, like he said before, at some point he's actually going to have to do something if Iran doesn't budge. So hopefully people will start to value human life in the government over in Iran, and we can get through this tragedy. But it is a nasty scenario.
Acceptable. That cannot happen. The straits need to be open, unimpeded, without tolls, and obviously that needs to happen immediately.
Well, that's something that I haven't heard yet. Without tolls, right? Because I had heard earlier that the U.S. was talking about setting up a toll that could possibly benefit the United States and Iran. So I don't know now if tolls are off the table.
So what he's talking about there with Marco Rubio traveling over the weekend right here is this choke point in the Strait of Hormuz. It has been a major sense of tension, not just for the region, but literally for the world thus far. So here's what happened over the weekend. And just recently, as of like 2 days ago, Iran says they want the jurisdiction, and they'll split it with Oman if Oman agrees to it, but the Iranians want to control it.
Interesting.
So this is the asserted oversight area, okay? Everything you see here in pink, this is a large area, okay? Previously, the Iranians really just claimed that northern section of the strait where you see a few islands on the Iranian side of the body of water, but they want all this now. They want to control it, so that's going to be a...
Right, because they understand how much money is involved. And it's so funny because Oman is right there as well. But I guess Oman is like the runt stepsister or something, because Oman, you never hear Oman being discussed. I don't even know how much wealth Oman has, but maybe they have very little political say and very little leverage to do anything. But it's interesting to hear that Iran is talking about sharing it with Oman. That would be interesting.
Major source of discussion. Now, with regard to the military action from over the weekend, here's what happened. The United States military noticed that there were 2 IRGC boats that were laying mines in the water. Those 2 boats were taken out. In response, the Iranians fired surface-to-air missiles. They say they went after an F-35. Whether that's true or not, we do not know. But then the U.S. military went after those targets. And again, those targets were on this side of the water in the town of Bandar Abbas. What about the mining in the strait? It's a big concern, not just for the U.S., but all.
That's exactly what I was wondering about. I'm glad they're going to talk about it.
All shipping companies and countries around the world. Check out this video here. There were several different mines the Iranians can use. And if you look...
Can you imagine going through there with some kind of passenger boat? Or not a passenger boat, but some kind of cargo boat or an oil boat, and being an American and hearing your captain like, I hope we don't hit a mine. Boy, those guys better be getting paid a lot, because you don't know if it's ever going to be your last voyage.
Look at it. You know, you could have these mines that are moored to the bottom of the ocean. You can find those, Dana, because you can go in and detect those. Other mines float on the water. Eventually, you could locate those. And you've got other mines that detect when a ship passes over it. It emits a signal, and then it can tell when the mine is in the area. And these mines here, they can literally attach the side of a boat. So as you're cruising through,
like
it can detonate later, and you never even know it.
Right.
Wow.
So that's the situation with the Iranians.
So they just have to figure out how to detect all of these mines. It looks like, except for maybe the limpet mines, the barnacle mines, they can detect them. So maybe they just need to come up with a good process for detecting all the mines so that they can go there, have ships resume passage through there without any casualties.
Be sure to like it.
Well, guys, that is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for coming out. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. You're the best.